Rewind to 1998. The X-Files is ruling TV, Titanic is still sinking box office records, and superhero flicks, let's just say they're not exactly dominating Hollywood yet. Then, out of the shadows, comes a film that slices through expectations and leaves audiences breathless. Blade. The vampire-slaying, leather coat-wearing, sunglasses-at-night anti-hero didn't just stake the undead, he staked his claim as one of the coolest characters ever to hit the screen. And admit it, you wanted those black shades, that trench coat, and maybe even tried a roundhouse kick in your living room. But here's the real juice. What happened to the iconic cast that brought Blade's world to life? Where's Wesley Snipes now? Still practicing martial arts? Or perhaps meditating on a pile of cash from his heyday? What about the unforgettable faces of Kris Kristofferson, Steven Dorff, and the scene-stealing N. Bush Wright? And with 2025 on the horizon, who's still slaying? Who's reinvented themselves? And who's vanished like a vampire at sunrise? Today, we're sharpening our stakes and dusting off our archives for the ultimate then versus now deep dive into the Blade main cast. Let's swing open the crypt, starting with the man, the myth, the daywalker himself, Wesley Snipes. In 1998, Snipes was already a Hollywood heavyweight, but Blade catapulted him into a whole new stratosphere. With his martial arts mastery and that perfect blend of ice-cold attitude and hidden vulnerability, he wasn't just playing Blade, he was Blade. Off-screen, Snipes was just as intense, insisting on doing most of his own stunts and even choreographing some fight scenes. Legend has it, he stayed in character so much that some crew members were a little nervous to approach him between takes. But hey, that commitment paid off. Now, let's fast forward to 2025. Wesley Snipes is in his 60s, but you'd never guess it from his Instagram. He's still got those razor-sharp cheekbones and a jawline you could cut glass with. After his blazing run as Blade, Snipes hit a few speed bumps. Remember the tax evasion drama that landed him in prison for a couple of years? But he bounced back, starring in everything from The Expendables 3 to Coming to America. In recent years, he's embraced his legacy with a sly sense of humor. He's dropped hints about secret martial arts projects, and rumor has it he even gave Mahershala Ali, the new MCU Blade, a few tips behind the scenes. Snipes might not be wielding the sword on the big screen anymore, but his shadow still looms large over the franchise. And by the way, if you spot a super fit guy in sunglasses at your gym, it might just be him. Next up, let's talk about Kris Kristofferson, the grizzled, gravel-voiced mentor whistler. Kristofferson was already a legend before Blade, with a career spanning country music, songwriting, and starring roles in classics like A Star is Born. But for a whole generation, he's Whistler, the chain-smoking, wise-cracking tech genius with a heart of gold and a tragic backstory. On set, Kristofferson brought a real sense of gravitas, and his chemistry with Snipes was so good that it's hard to believe their off-screen relationship was just as warm. Kristofferson was famous for jamming on his guitar between takes and giving impromptu concerts for the crew. Imagine getting a private show from a music icon while waiting for the next scene to be set up. So where's Kristofferson now in 2025? He's 88 years old and has officially retired from touring and acting. Health issues have slowed him down, but he's still sharp as a tack, sometimes popping up in interviews to reminisce about the wild days on the Blade set. He spends most of his time with family in Hawaii, reportedly still writing music and occasionally playing for friends. Fans might not see him on screen anymore, but to Blade devotees, he'll always be the original Whistler, the man who taught Blade everything he knows. Now, let's dig into the ultimate villain, Deacon Frost, played by Steven Dorff. Flashback to the late 90s. Dorff was the epitome of bad boy cool. As Frost, he brought a magnetic mix of menace and swagger. Off-camera, he was just as rebellious, known for disappearing into clubs after shooting and sometimes rolling into set with a story or two from the LA nightlife. It's said he and Snipes even had a bit of friendly competition, seeing who could throw the best punch or improvise the snarkiest line. In 2025, Steven Dorff is still very much in the game. After Blade, he popped up in everything from Sofia Coppola's Somewhere to True Detective. He's become something of a cult favorite, popping up in indie gems and occasionally roasting Hollywood's obsession with superhero movies. Fun fact, he's openly joked about playing the villain before it was cool, and he's not shy about sharing behind-the-scenes stories from Blade. He's also dipped his toes into producing, and rumor has it he's developing a dark, vampire-themed series of his own. Dorff's got that rare Hollywood longevity, never quite mainstream, but always unforgettable. Let's not forget N. Bush Wright, who played Dr. Karen Jensen. She was the brains and heart of Blade, bringing a fresh perspective to the vampire hunting chaos. In the late 90s, Wright was on the fast track, known for her roles in Dead Presidents and Fresh. On the Blade set, she was the glue that held it all together, often found rehearsing lines with Snipes late into the night and making sure everyone stayed grounded during the wild production schedule. There's a legendary story about her going toe-to-toe with the film's makeup artists to make sure her look was just right. Talk about dedication. Where's she now? N. Bush Wright took a step back from the spotlight in the 2000s, focusing on theater, activism, and teaching. She's become a mentor for young actors and still occasionally appears on stage in New York. She's given a few rare interviews reflecting on the whirlwind days of Blade, always speaking fondly of her castmates and the groundbreaking impact the film had on Black superheroes in Hollywood. Her Instagram is a treasure trove of throwback photos, inspirational quotes, and the occasional Blade fan art. She might not be slaying vampires these days, but she's still inspiring the next generation of heroes. And let's not overlook Donald Logue, the comic relief who got more than he bargained for as the ever-regenerating henchman Quinn. Logue was a scene stealer, both hilarious and horrifying, and he's carried that energy into a long, eclectic career. After Blade, he became a TV staple with roles in Grounded for Life, Sons of Anarchy, and Gotham. Off-set, Logue was the Joker of the group, constantly pulling pranks and keeping spirits high during late-night shoots. There's even a rumor he once convinced the crew that the set was haunted, only to reveal it was him making spooky noises behind the walls. Fast forward to 2025, and Logue is as busy as ever. He's bounced between television and movies, never afraid to take on quirky, offbeat characters. He's also become something of a cult hero at Comic Cons, always ready to share a wild Blade story with fans. He's even written a book about his Hollywood adventures. And yes, there's a whole chapter devoted to what he calls the bloodiest, craziest set in movie history. If you spot a guy in a trucker hat and a mischievous grin at your local fan convention, it's probably Donald Logue. But what about Udo Kier, the one and only Dragonetti? Before Blade, Kier was already a legend of the European art house circuit, known for his hypnotic stare and offbeat roles. On Blade, he brought a chilling elegance to the Vampire Council, and his scenes oozed menace. Off-camera, Kier was the cast's resident raconteur, regaling everyone with stories from his decades in showbiz, some of which, let's just say, were probably a little too wild for daytime talk shows. Today, Udo Kier is still the king of cult cinema, showing up in everything from art house thrillers to the occasional surprise cameo in big-budget films. He's never stopped working, and he embraces his reputation as the guy who can play anything. Kier's social media is filled with glamorous photos from film festivals and behind-the-scenes glimpses into his fabulously eccentric life. He's even hinted that he'd love to return to the Blade universe in some form, because, as he puts it, vampires never really die. Of course, we can't talk Blade without mentioning Arlie Jover, the enigmatic Mercury. She brought a deadly grace to the role, and her chemistry with Dorff's Deacon Frost was off the charts. Jover was a rising star at the time, and on set, she was known for her intense focus, rarely breaking character, always pushing for just one more take to get a scene perfect. Since then, Arlie Jover's career has taken her across Europe and back, with roles in films, TV, and even theater. She's reinvented herself as a respected character actress, known for her chameleon-like ability to disappear into any role. In 2025, she's juggling motherhood, acting, and the occasional Blade reunion panel, where fans still line up to ask about her iconic fight scenes. Rounding out the main cast, let's give a shout-out to Tracy Lords, who made a memorable appearance as the dangerously alluring Raquel in the unforgettable opening nightclub scene. Lords was no stranger to controversy or reinvention. Her Blade role was a bold move that helped her transition fully into mainstream Hollywood. Off-screen, she was the life of the party, known for her quick wit and fearless attitude. These days, Lords is still in the game, acting, writing, and even producing. She's outspoken about her Blade days, often crediting the film with helping her find her footing as a serious actress. So, as we look back from 2025, the Blade cast remains as fascinating, unpredictable, and iconic as ever. Some have stayed in the spotlight, others have taken quieter paths, but every single one of them helped create a movie that changed the game, not just for comic book films, but for the entire action genre. And with Blade's legacy continuing to inspire a whole new generation of vampire hunters, there's one thing we know for sure. You can take the actor out of Blade, but you can't take Blade out of the actor. Subscribe for more content.